right, so now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker. And I've known Shannan for several years, but we only recently reconnected when he and his wife, Lynn, graciously and generously donated lots of masks. I think, oh gosh, over 250 masks, N95 surgical masks to our own Hawaii Care Choices or Hospice of Hilo. And we're so appreciative of that. Shannan did that in memory of Reverend Tagg, and he's here today to speak to us on the topic of God's math. So welcome from home, Shannan Powell.
Aloha. Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me. This is an honor. Reverend Tagg was one of my teachers and instructors for 5 years and has been a major influence on my life. So thank you, Reverend Kathy. It feels very honored to be in Tagg's house, what used to be, well, it always will be. Giving thanks for this day, giving thanks for the life of God that lives through each and every one of us, giving thanks for this breath, for being able to not only knock on heaven's door, but today we declare we're going to enter it. And in this entering of heaven's door, we simply allow God to be all it can be through we. It's all God, and it's all good, and it's all grateful. Amen. I had the privilege, I was babysitting a bunch of Tibetan monks that were working with the Dalai Lama at a conference, and he has his own entourage and group. My work was making sure that these 15 monks get where they got to go. Wonderful conference, talking about the oneness and unity of all the religions. And I was able to have a discussion at the end of it. I had a monk in front of me and asked him what he thought, get a different perspective, because we were working our tails off. And he brought up God's math and science of mind and unity, and all of them were always talking about the oneness of God. God is one. Everything we do comes back to the one. And he drew a line on the sand, and he put the one in the sand. It said, if you multiply 1 times 4 billion, you have 4 billion. If you divide 1 by 4 billion, you have 1 4 billionths. You have the one, but it's in pieces. It separates. It's that individual, unique expression of God that we have. In Buddhism, we believe that God is none, zero. Because what happens if you multiply 4 billion by 0? You still have 0. What happens if you divide that 4 billion or multiply it? You have 0. You have the nothing of God, which is the everything of God in all places. And that's why I asked to have knocking on heaven's door. We can find the oneness of God. Everything that science of mind, and I think everybody in here and everybody listening knows that that oneness of God brings us to that space of being on heaven's door. I don't believe that earth and heaven are separate. We are here to bring heaven to earth, like Jesus says in the Lord's Prayer, on earth as it is in heaven. Getting in the oneness of God, getting to that place of getting the perfect parking space and thanking God, praying for that. And I had these monks, and we were pulling into a thing and looked at it and said, there's the parking space. And they all started getting happy and saying, good, give it away. Let's go to the next one. Thank you, God. I never heard of that, never seen it done, but being able to see beyond the me. We have to get beyond the one to where it's not our will being done. To the degree that our will is being done, God's will is not. So if we have no agenda, if we have no intention or plan of what we expect, we not only will not be disappointed, but we will allow something greater than we are holding to unfold. So we knock on heaven's door by finding the oneness. And when we find that oneness and come into that space, we have nothing. We have nothing we're asking. We have nothing that we're getting. We are in a space beyond getting. We are at the giving of what God has given us. Same thing would tie into how much we spend time doing so that we may be what we choose to be. We have to do this. I have to pray. I have to meditate. I have to do these things so that I can be what I'm supposed to be. But if we spent that time simply being, the doing unfolds for us. We don't have to do anything. We can simply be the space where God's grace takes place. We can allow something greater again than ourselves to unfold. So we knock on heaven's door, and knocking on the door is a great place to be. Not very often we actually get to enter. There's not very often where we just know that God is and everything moving through us, but that's what we shoot for. We have to find the one before we can go into the nothingness, which brings us to the allness. We have to find the one first, but don't stop there. We had the Science of Mind classes. I was at a large church in Los Angeles, and we used to call them the Psalm Oneers, the Science of Mind one, where that you learn that God is everything, and you learn the basic fundamentals of science of mind, that it's all God and it's all good. But we had a lot of people that stopped right there. We had a lot that, okay, they didn't see it in everybody else. They saw the oneness inside themselves, and God made things happen. The law of attraction, to me, is a good example. It's a wonderful movie and a wonderful piece, but it doesn't cover anything because it spends most of its time telling us how we can get. We can get things with the law of attraction. And it's not a matter of what we can get. It's a matter of what we can give. All the Father has is ours. Everything that could possibly be given, we've already received. It's a matter of how can we get ourselves out of the way to receive the good that's always there. Knocking on heaven's door is starting off with the gets. Lord, may I get peace. Lord, may I get my rent paid. Lord, may I ask these questions. We have to ask them to get to the one, but once we get to that space of asking, we get into a place of centering where there is nothing to ask, where we know all is well, no matter the appearance. God reveals itself through us and as us now. And I've had a wonderful opportunity for the past month or two to practice this in ways that I never chose to. My father is in the process of making his transition. It might not be today or tomorrow, but he's been in and out of the hospital. He got out 2 weeks ago, and my dad, being my dad, decided that he could go down a long flight of stairs to take a shower and fell down, and we're back in the same mess all over again. He's in Ohio. I'm here. There's not a thing I can do for him at this time. We have a friend coming out with health issues and 9 different things coming from Mexico, from visas to setting up the quarantine rules to do everything else, and it's really overwhelming. Thanks, my wife is helping me on this. Each time I say there's nothing, can we do anything about it right now? Right this moment, what can we do? We can worry about it. We can come up with 9 scenarios that we can't act on. So let's don't do it all. Let's be a space where God can do the work for us. Let's let go of what we have to get and what are we going to give. And that will tie in. This is from Joel Goldsmith. It is folly to ask God to stop war, to feed the starving people of the world, to do something about the horrible conditions on earth. Through thousands of years of that kind of praying, it has been discovered that God is not listening to our appeals to do something on earth. God is not listening to us. No, instead, we should be listening to God. God is eternally speaking. All around the clock, God is speaking to man. The demonstrations of things and conditions is never our work. Our work is attaining that inner awareness, that inner stillness and peace, and then letting it perform the work. Be still and know that I, the Spirit, at the center of your being is God. Be still and let it impart itself in you. Be still in quiet confidence. Receive God's grace. It's simply being still. The doing is already done. One can be divided. And we divide it by putting our will, imposing our will. We see the good of God and then say, God, here's what I want you to do. And God doesn't listen to that. God, what do you have for me to do? How can I serve you today? Producing shows, my wife can vouch for this. I will take those 6 or 7 options that we're looking at on going back for my parents, whatever it may be. I take the worst one. The one that's going to be the hardest to control, the one that we're going to have a problem with, and say, that's my baseline. This or something better, but if this is the worst I have, I can handle this. And if something greater comes along, which never fails, always has, I will handle that even better. For it's not thy will be done. And it's veering off the course. I'd love for it to be, and I'm sure it can be for some people, and maybe one of these days I'll have it down to where everything just goes clear. But I find myself most of the time walking in a fog of not knowing and learning to love that space more than knowing what I know. Because what I know limits the flow of the unconditional, all-good, almighty love of God. What I know leads to things that I can't control. If I know God's in control, if I know that no matter what appears before me right here and now, God's got it. Love will happen. I am not looking to get anything, so therefore I'm not disappointed. But if I'm looking to give, I've never been disappointed in finding something from my heart to give to. I'm never lacking in God. And roll with that and watch everything change, everything swerve. Having to give up, I know how stubborn I am when, okay, this plan A isn't working now, we're going to plan B, and you get halfway through that and you're still thinking, well, I'm going to get back to plan A. And then you go to C, D, and E, and you still have A, and then you realize A doesn't work anymore. It's not a matter of doing the work, it's a matter of being the space where the work can be done. It's a matter of letting go of your God, of your concept of whatever it may be, and just being able to serve that from within. Knocking on heaven's door. It's a wonderful place to be, but there's a better place to be, and that is to be inside heaven. To allow the earth that Jesus says, on earth as it is in heaven, in the Lord's Prayer. Give us our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from the evil one. We don't fight evil. We don't resist evil. To knock on heaven's door, we have to acknowledge it's there, but we know in that space that God will deliver us from any appearance of evil it is. We don't have to do a thing but have the faith of knowing that God is here also, that God will speak through me, that the appearance of evil has no power with the power of God. I don't have to fight it. I don't have to resist it. I have to go into prayer. I have to see the oneness of God that is beyond my understanding. A peace and a place of grace that just doesn't have a word or an explanation. It's simply a breath, a ha. And when I go ha, God's with me there. I don't have to stress. I don't have to worry. I just behold love unfold. It's a wonderful place to be. So that if we can simply take the breath of God, what do I have to do right now? I've got 9 different things to do. Which one am I going to choose? What am I going to do? Let's just simply choose the breath. I'm going to do my being. I'm going to be. If you were in the pattern, if you're in God's will, if you're in that grace, you wouldn't be having to do that breath in the first place. So I found that it's going to be something that I hadn't thought of. It's going to be doing something in a way that I'd never considered before. But I also just watch it being done. I'm more of a witness to it than not. And when you're able to receive, when God gives through you, it's a wonderful place to be. But when the giving, when God moves through someone else to you is when heaven is here. It has nothing to do with us or what we do. It's who we be. We be love. We be peace. We be compassion. We be grace. We don't have to fix anything. It's already fixed in the mind of God. We just have to allow the mind of a God to impart through us. So I invite you to join me right now. Let's take a deep breath. And simply acknowledge. It's part of what TAG starts every day with, and it's been with me for 15 years. God breathes through me now. Not my breath, God's breath. Not my will, God's will. And in the appearance of death with my father, in the appearance of grief with the family, in appearance of turbulence in traveling and COVID, we have this wonderful awakening with Black Lives Matter right now, that I can't do anything about any of them, but I can be the space where God can do what God needs to be done. I don't have an answer. I don't believe there is one. There's only questions. And if we can get comfortable and abide in the question itself, the answer will unfold. I had a lady who called me from Dallas on Friday night with riots and things happening around her and asked, what can I do right now? I'm scared. And I said, you can be the space. Right now, let's take a breath. Let's sit here, and you'll find that as you do your work, as the peace and calm comes within you, that it happens on the outside. That the quieting, everything else will take care. We take care of our own peace, and then the peace will radiate out. The appearance might not change, but our attitude does. Our seeing the awareness of God will unfold for us. We don't have to have an answer, but we have to be comfortable in the question and simply know that the answer is God is. God is all that we appear, God is all that we see, and we keep that breath going. We keep breathing that until the issue goes away, until there is nothing but God being breathed in and out. And as these same monks that used to say when I was serving them, we breathe until God breathes so much in us, through us, that it pours out of us. That every exhale is simply the breath of God pouring through. And you can't find that if you have something to do, if you have a goal that needs to be achieved. God will do the doing, we simply be the being. And in being, we're knocking on heaven's door. We've entered the door. And heaven is to be here now. We are here to bring it. We are here to express the good of God, and no matter what appearance that we see, we know that God's got it in control. And we give our love away. If you have to receive from God, if you have to get at this moment, you're not at the space. You're still knocking at the door. When it's all you can say is, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God, I'm full, thank you, God, then we go about it. And the great part of it is, once we have that, once we can get that as we start about our day, we notice when it's not there. Sometimes it'll take a couple of hours, sometimes it can take, your wife, partner, loved one waking up in a grumpy mood. Don't blame them. Thank Him for the lesson. It's all a lesson. Actually, it's all a blessing. And if it's not a blessing, it's a lesson. And when you learn the lesson, the blessing unfolds. I'm blessed to stand up here today. I'm grateful to be at the pulpit of Reverend Tagg and Reverend Kathy and this wonderful community. My heart overflows. Heaven is here now. We've had the blessings of rain falling upon us as we speak. May the blessings fall like rain upon me. May love reveal itself through everybody watching this now. For those that are here in mind, body, and spirit, it's all God and it's all good. And I'm all grateful. And I invite us to knock on heaven's door and then enter and give what God has given us. If we give the love that we're given, if we can be the love that we see, the rest of it will take care of itself. Let's enter heaven and take it from there. Thank you very much.